How many here have animals? And how many want animals? Okay, excellent. So those that have animals can probably say that definitively your life with animals is chaos. You are, as farmers, going to be spending basically the rest of your life putting out fires, and hopefully we can at least keep the ones that we want to keep burning, and then put the other ones out as quickly and efficiently as possible. And I feel like I'm maybe standing too close to the thing, so I'll try not to do that. So here's the thing about what we're going to talk about today is we are going to talk about chaos management. Obviously, that's the title of this talk. Doop. But I am not an expert at chaos management. I like to give that disclaimer right away. One of my favorite quotes is that we teach best what we most need to learn. And if you've ever seen any of my content online, you probably know that there's a family of about 1,000 squirrels living in my brain, and my entire life's mission is trying to herd those squirrels in some sort of logical manner. And so I will just say that I like having to manage my own life and my own enormous ambitions, my poor husband, has been such a huge challenge that it's forced me to get very, very good at time management and project management, and also get very good at asking for help and admitting failure, and most importantly, prioritizing what's actually important. And so I think all of us, if you're anything like me, you probably have found yourself saying at one time or another, in like 2 weeks or a month or whatever it is, this will happen, and then after that, everything's going to slow down. And I hate to be the one to crush your dreams, but you're never going to get it all done. Things are never going to actually slow down. And so our job then as chaos managers is going to be figuring out how to, amidst 1,000 fires burning around us, how to tend to the ones that are important and let the other ones just burn out on their own. And so time management, which hilariously is what so many people came to me asking, how do you manage your time? How do you get so much done? All these other things. So many people asked me that I decided to write a book about that, which is hilarious to my husband because he actually sees what our life is like and is like, but the most important thing is knowing what the most important thing is. And when we are putting out fires all the time, it's actually really, really, really hard to discern what's actually important. And so one of my favorite little just like isms about time management and goal and project management is that if we write our goals down, we are 35% more likely to achieve them. If we say them out loud, we're 50% more likely to achieve them. But if we actually put them on our calendar and seek accountability to make sure that things get done when we say that they're done, or when we say that they're going to be done, then we are 75% more likely than someone who just has some vague, undefined thing hanging out in the ether in front of them. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. So I just want to, darn tootin', okay. So this is the Instagram version of farming. But let's be honest, that even with the best, this is cheddar, I got my first dairy cow 5 years ago, and now I have 18 cows, and that escalated in a real hurry. This is my favorite cow, Cheddar, though, and she's literally the best in the world. But sometimes, actually a lot of times, things don't go quite as planned. They say don't cry over spilled milk, but who here's ever milked an animal? Yeah, you probably have cried over spilled milk because, boy howdy, does it take a whole lot of time, work, and effort to get from the point that you have this to where you have the opportunity to potentially have some usable milk at the end of it. By the way, that's not just milk spilled all over me. She was also kind enough to pee on me and poop right in the milk, which made it splash all up. some ended up in my mouth, and it wasn't the best day ever. Some just real quick things. Also, I just think it's probably, oops, I went too far. Some real quick things. So I'm talking about time, chaos management, all those things. And I'm such an expert at that for a 30-minute talk, I have 52 slides. So obviously, we're probably not going to get through them all. And that's totally okay, because we're dealing with what's important first. So take that lesson. Multitasking is a myth. I'm going to just hit these things really quick. It took me all of my 20s to realize that the more stones I tried to simultaneously push up a hill at once, the more stones that ultimately fell down the hill and rolled over my foot as they were going by. And I am now realizing that doing less is actually better. And yes, my online persona is Anne of all trades. And one thing that I have realized is that when I am very organized, and when I am practicing my best time management skills and all those things, life still can be absolute and total chaos. But if I only try to push 3 stones up a hill at the same time, and by the way, I don't mean at the exact same time, I'm talking about 3 general stones during the same week. I'm going to push one of the stones up the hill. During the same week, I'm going to push a different one up and the other one too. And that managing 3, I can juggle 3 balls. I can't juggle 5 balls. I can't juggle 10 stones without getting hurt. So multitasking is a myth. That is 100% true, because truly the best way that we're going to be the most effective is if we have our entire focus on one thing at a time. And in that, if I'm maybe milking my cow, I could listen to an audiobook to improve my life or something. Or I could listen to a podcast. Or maybe while I'm digging a hole, I could do those things too. When I'm folding the laundry, I could maybe talk to my husband about something. Those are things that are mindless, repetitive tasks that, yes, for those who are super, super argumentative in the audience, they will say, yes, multitasking is a myth, or multitasking is possible. In those contexts, that is true. However, the more that I have been able to give my entire focus to whatever I'm doing, even if it is something totally menial, something totally repetitive and meaningless, my capacity for pain actually increases. So I think for so many of us in this digital age, it's so easy to just constantly have something filling our brain and our time and our hands at all times. And here's just a quick side story, because we obviously have plenty of time for these. The reason I got a dairy cow, my first dairy cow, was not actually probably the reason that most of you might someday get a dairy cow. Most of you probably want milk, and that's great. I don't even really drink milk, but what I did need from my dairy cow was something that relied on me, that made me consistent, that then also provided me a peaceful, quiet start to every single day. And that is exactly what my cow gave me. And though I was raised in the church, and I had carried so much shame my whole life because I'd seen everyone around me be so good at waking up at 5 a.m. and having their morning prayers and writing in their journal and reading their Bible. And I have thousands of journals that have 1 page of entries in them. And, the first, paragraph of Genesis was highlighted 4,000 times. But beyond that, the first time in my entire life that I had ever gotten up and done something and actually had, time to have morning prayers and quiet time, and the thing that I actually needed more than anything else in life, just a undistracted moment where it's me and an animal who's counting on me that I have a relationship with, that actually opened up the entire world of possibilities for me. Of course, I couldn't stop with one, but here's the thing. We do what's important. I realized what the cows were doing for me, and then I started activating other pieces of the levers that we're going to talk about in just a moment. All right, so time management is a way that we basically are today in capitalist society creating the opportunity to be more distracted and do more things that matter less. Like, if we get super efficient at checking our email and like running through our list, guess what happens? When you're really good at responding to all the emails that are in your email box, you then are like, all those people will reply back. And you're creating more and more and more. And so poor John, having tried to email me multiple times for this event, I stopped checking my email like a year and a half ago, and the people that need to know how to get through that stuff do, but the wildest thing happened when I stopped checking my email. All the people who were making their problems my problem every single day found other solutions. Well, I assume. I mean, it's been like a year and a half since they last emailed me, so hopefully, or since I last emailed them back. But I just want to just make those kinds of connections in our brain, because to us, like, time is our only non-renewable resource. Our time, our energy, and our very limited capacity in the 4,000 weeks that we get to spend awake on this planet, if we're lucky, if we're blessed, we need to be sure that we are living with a sense of purpose that that reflects what we feel called to do. And so as farmers, even if we have outside jobs, I work full time and I farm in the margins, and mercifully I was able to find some hired help to help me with the cows once I realized that 18 cows is too many for me. But with all that, what was most important to me is the thing that I needed to prioritize more than having my job or anything else. And my husband quit his job 2 years ago. He worked in corporate America. He decided to work with me, and I think he's regretted that choice a lot of times. But one of the first work fights that we had was about milking the cows. And it was like, I was like, this is my number one priority, because milking the cows helps me to do every other thing that I also have to do in a day. And I know you don't understand it because you've never squeezed a cow teat, but he, once he kind of had spent some more time around me, he was like, oh, so this is something we're going to prioritize. We're going to put the things that are the most important to you first, and then all the other stuff that feel important to me, because I used to work at Amazon, are going to be put second to that. And so, mercifully, there's where the technology stuff is great, because Adam now helps me with all that stuff. And he makes sure that I don't miss anything really, really important on the emails and all the other things. So the other thing that I think is really important to just touch on really quickly is that self-sufficiency is a farce. And I might be getting myself in a little bit of hot water here, because this is the Food Independence Summit. But I genuinely believe that each one of us has certain things that we can do exceptionally well, and if we actually allow ourselves the time and prioritize our best focus, then we will be able to generate whatever we need to generate to be able to positively contribute to the rest of our community, which can help us fill in those gaps. And I was raised in a Christian community that is basically a commune, and so I was modeled what this looked like, where everyone has their special thing that they can contribute, and then everyone works together to make things better, to help fill in all the gaps. And my friends now, I specifically seek out people within our community, and I'm like, what do you need? What's the gap that's missing there? And how can I help you find someone else to help you fill it, so that you don't have to do more than you have the time, energy, and capacity to do well? And again, this is still a lesson that I'm still learning. I just purchased, 12 tubas on the internet to restore, because that seemed like a good idea. But the real thing is that when we are doing any of the things that we're doing, we really do need to realize that things are going to go wrong, and we need to know how it is that we're going to keep everything else from falling apart when those things go wrong. Hilariously, I'm running on very little sleep right now, because as I was leaving yesterday to come here, my livestock guardian dog suddenly decided that was the time that she needed to start learning how to climb over gates. And so I was trying to fix the gates, and as I was fixing the gates, I looked over and I noticed some water dripping from the side of the barn, and I was like, oh, no. So I went into my office, which holds everything that I hold dear, and also the apartment above the barn that we live in, and the air conditioner had somehow flooded the entire place. And so, I have pretty good infrastructure. I have things set up pretty well to not go wrong. I have this incredible electric line system that should keep the dogs from doing any of the things that they were doing the last couple days. But it turns out that my local arborist, my partner in the community, who helps me with lots of things, had accidentally backed his truck right into the pole that holds up my electric line, which made the electric line go down. I didn't see it because he also covered it with mulch. And so then I was like, oh, well, the electric line. So then, it's like I was supposed to leave at like 9:30 a.m. At like 2:30 p.m., I'm out there with my hay rake, raking the mulch off of the fence post and shoveling water out of my office. And here's the thing. Things are going to go wrong. We need to know what we're going to do when they do. So it is very important. And again, I said self-sufficiency is a farce. And though it is possible, sorry, I get so excited. Though it is possible to, if you're going to be a total hermit and that's your thing and you literally just want to live in a cave and do that, I will say that your life will get very, very lonely. And when your cows escape and, everything goes to crap, or you stab yourself with a knife in the middle of the night while making nachos, then you end up needing a backup plan. And so this is my friend Tyler. Tyler is our neighbor, and she is my backup plan for everything, and I am hers. And I had been farming by myself for 10 years before I met Tyler, and I was like, I don't want to do this by myself anymore. And she said, I don't want to do this by myself anymore. Guess what? Tyler is a dairy farmer, and she convinced me to get my first cow. This is now going to go real quick because I'm just going to go through these slides and just talk about infrastructure things that help my life, at least normally, run a little bit smoother. And so if we have a backup person, then we also need to have a backup place. If we're going to have animals and we're ever going to be gone, we need to have one place that we can reliably lock them up and feed them and make sure that everything's going to be okay if we're not there to chase them down the highway and then end up in the police blotter later. So with all of this stuff, I think we see so many people, at least I do, being on social media, having really, really expensive infrastructure and setups and things that just truly make everything about farming seem unapproachable. But let me just tell you that if, actually Joel was just up here, and Joel has a great book. It's called You Can Farm. And while the price lists for some of the things that he talks about in that book have changed, one of my favorite things about Joel is that he uses this phrase that my grandpa always used to use too. Use what you've got to get where you need to go. And I have started very small and very humble. For those of you who haven't seen my stuff online, when I started doing all this 12 years ago, all of our food was coming from the food bank. We were dead broke, and trying to get gas in my car to go to work was a huge struggle. My husband was unemployed for almost a year, and just things were really, really hard. And that is what drove me to put my first seed in the ground. And by ground, I meant straight horse manure, and it didn't work that well the first time. But you know what? I grew some great lettuce. And so once we learn more about soil science, things get really, really exciting. But that's where I started. And it's actually, even as I've continued to build a business and everything else, my frugality is also what has sustained my ability to continue to grow things. And so my friends make fun of me all the time because my former career, I have had many of them, but my most recent former career was teaching fine woodworking. So I can build a beautiful Windsor chair or a whiskey cabinet on the wall, but all my friends who come over are like, what is that? When they see my homemade seed drill or my pallet goat milking, actually basically everything's pallets. We don't even need to go any further into that. But with all of that, the best thing, and the one thing I want you to take away from this talk is ABL. Always be learning. Because as I have OCD, like genuine OCD, like I count steps and things like obsessively, which used to be a huge problem, but hilariously, when I started farming, it actually became super, super useful because I now know exactly how many steps it takes me to do everything, and I am constantly looking for ways to take less steps, and I know exactly how long it takes me to do things, assuming that I also don't like start the farm on fire while I'm doing them. And so then I can actually really accurately predict how long it's going to take me, and basically becoming absolutely obsessed with observing every single pain point, frustration, whatever else, and then finding some super janky way to jerry-rig it on my farm. Like, I have become a very efficient farmer, and I'm really, really proud of that. So I think about the good Lord gave us two hands, and as long as one of them's not in a cast, we should be carrying something in both hands, both ways, everywhere that we go. We, I don't expect all of you to count your steps, but it is a really good thing to just if you have your cell phone with you, start using a timer. Not only can you make a game out of beating yourself, literally making your chores go faster every day, if that's what you want to do. Some of us want to literally spend an hour milking our cows, and that's okay too. Actually, that's the far more important thing than beating yourself with this other stuff. But every time that I'm going anywhere, I am keeping track of what's happening there, which then also has lent itself very well to being a good business person, because I never charge less than what it actually costs me time-wise to do things, and all of those things are super great. So in that, I just want to show you, so this is our feed room for the cows, and this barn, by the way, you'll see some more pictures of it in a second, but this barn is literally made out of trees, and then it was cedar seconds, this is not a fancy barn. It just became $8,000 fancier because after 5 years of using a barn with a dirt floor for our dairy business that we were doing, we were able to save up enough money to pour concrete, which makes things way easier when the cows poop and pee on the floor, and also do some other really fun projects like this. So I used to have to walk all the way around to pour the food into the stanchions where we feed the cows. But now we just cut these sweet little windows in, and I want you to also look at every single 2x4, every single piece of hardware, everything in there is recycled, aka free and or very, very cheap. But in my step counting, I was like, oh, if we cut little windows in here, not only can I make myself look like a total idiot while posing for you, because I couldn't actually do this while the cows were in there, because the cows, it's a business, we have to, do that. So anyway, here's me pretending to be a cow in our very efficient setup now. We, again, just thinking about all the problems that we were having and keeping track of those, and then just thinking about those things and being like, how could I maybe solve that next time? We noticed that when we were first milking some of our more ornery cows, it would help to have their calf in there with them. So we grabbed another few scrap pieces of wood and built a little calf pen so that the calf can stand next to the mom while we milk, but not get in the way. And then, again, more things about how could I put the things that I need in my way, on the way? So this is all the stuff that we use for every cow is in every stanchion. And then I noticed how much it was ruining my day every single day to deal with that dang chain, one-handed, because I was also carrying a bucket full of water, which weighs 40 pounds, and trying to wrap it around and do all that while balancing and trying to keep the calves in with my legs. I was like, this sucks. So these are the coolest gate latches ever. They're the only goat-proof, everything-proof gate latches I've ever found. But the coolest thing is you can karate kick them to shut them, open them, all those things, and then all you have to, and the best part is, city people, for whatever reason, cannot seem to figure these out, so it's also a great, great thing to have. We share Tyler and I share the dairy barn and that whole farm area where we're keeping the dairy cows with her husband's CSA, community supported agriculture business. And so the farm hands were constantly stealing my hoses and or cutting them off to fill up a tractor implement or whatever. And I just got so sick and tired of that I was like, I am literally going to buy 2 of everything that I ever need, and I'm going to have it with me at all times. So this is what the back of my Cub Cadet looks like all the time. It's got some lint rollers to lint roll the ticks off of me once I leave the field. It's got a knife so that I can cut some billing twine and use that to fix everything, because that's what we do. It's got a hose with a quick connect, extra poles, fencing, all that stuff. And this one, it's going to be a little bit hard to see, but another huge problem we kept having is because the barn is not actually attached to the fencing. We move our cows every day, so there's very little hard fencing. And so I needed to make a pathway that would stop the cows from running off instead of going where they're supposed to go. So did it have to be fancy? Absolutely not. It is, again, you probably can't see it super clearly, but it's actually just 2 ropes that are the exact correct length, so that when we need to move the cows, it looks like the electric fence that we have for the cows that keeps them in. And we literally there's a hook on it, and you just pull the hook, and now you have a lane where the cows cannot wander. So we want to farm smarter. Again, we're going to have to speed things up here because, this one's really important. I think, people ask me, how do you stay motivated? Because I do work, 18 hours a day, and, sometimes farm life really sucks. But I realized, basically in the first month that I had cows, that, sometimes there was certain things about it that just were not great. And actually, I've had goats now for almost a decade. Just 10 years, actually, just passed. So there was a lot of times with the goats that I was like, this is not worth it. But knowing exactly why I was doing the things that I was doing, again, my motivations are probably very different than some of y'all's, but knowing exactly why I was doing it then gave me the correct context to then be like, oh, you know what? I chose this. And I could choose to not choose it tomorrow if I wanted to. I could choose to have a bad attitude, or I could choose to be in there and be like, wow, what a phenomenal opportunity to be able to be a part of my community, to do something that feels so dang good to do. Because I tell you what, squeezing a teat in the morning is way better than checking emails when I used to work in tech. I will move cow fences in 95-degree weather any day of the week. If the alternative is being trapped in a cubicle watching the 28 sunny days we got a year in Seattle just fly right by, and spending 2 hours in traffic both ways to and from work. So even the crappiest crap, when I'm shoveling crap, I often am you know what, I chose to do this. And you know what, that has changed my perspective so much that I actually really, really like shoveling poop and doing some of the really, really gross, not as awesome things. Listen, get interested in composting and growing mushrooms, and suddenly poop is going to be your new favorite thing in the world. We're just going to keep going on here so we can just look at a few more things. So another big thing that I've done is I have put every single thing that I need on the way to where I need to use it. This probably looks like poor stewardship from the outside because I break a lot of, we live in Tennessee. It rains a lot. The sun is very harsh. Things break. Things wear down really quickly. I have tools that are rusty all the time. I know how to fix them. Don't worry. But I started going to farm auctions or even just Sunday sales and getting $2 shovels and whatever else. And so though it now looks like, not great always because there's literal piles of crap everywhere, it's become so helpful because I literally need, everything that I need is always right where I need it. And so as I'm walking into the garden, there's my shovels and all the other stuff that I might need in the garden. And when they break, it's $2 to fix it. And I tell you what, having to not wander around 30 acres wondering where my dad put the shovel that he was using 6 months ago, worth the $2 every day of the week. And again, I've thought about my steps. So I'm I often have to come out of the barn when I'm not carrying water buckets. So what I should do is put a little wheelbarrow there, and I'll put the wheelbarrow just right in front of the gate, and I'll be able to shovel up a little bit of compost as I leave the gates after I've given the water. And as it happens, my compost pile is right next to the exit of the barn, which also happens to be right next to the garden where I'll use the compost. And I think I am out of time, so I'm just going to show you a few other really quick hacks This little system around my fence line is an electric line that I use little alligator clips. So instead of having to carry around those 40-pound chargers anymore, I literally just have this electric line that stays hot all the time, which, by the way, also keeps deer out, keeps raccoons out, keeps groundhogs out, keeps squirrels out, like all the things. And now when I set up an electric line, I can just use an alligator clip to put that on. This is an automatic hose clip thing, so you don't have to screw on the little things every time. I've installed these literally everywhere. This is a cow chute made out of broken cow gates. We don't need to spend $7,000. There's mud on our farm just like everyone else's. You can see the electric lines there with the fly traps, and I will just keep, So literally, never bend over again. Get yourself at a restaurant supply store, get a little sweeper like that, and your back will thank you. And then, most importantly, get organized. Know where everything that you have is, and so you can find it. Anyway, that is good. We made it to slide 15, so we're good. All right, thank you so much.